Ladies and gentlemen, hello and good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes, and this is the WWE SmackDown Live Recap Show. Thank you very much for watching this video, for deciding to click the play button and watch it, or even better, to be here live as I'm streaming this live on the internet a few minutes after the conclusion of WWE SmackDown Live. We've got stuff out there into the wilderness of the internet. We're going to talk about pro wrestling. We're going to talk about WWE SmackDown. We're going to talk about a fun show. I thought this was a particularly amusing program this evening, and it got me excited. It got me thinking. It got me grooving. It hit me in all the right feel spots. But we'll get to that as we go along. There was a lot of good stuff, a lot of things to like about tonight's show. So we got people out here. We got people in the chat. I want to shout out to Jason Campbell, who's again with us. How you doing, Jason? And you know, if you're in the chat, you're watching this, and here we have Mizzy20, who just jumped in as I was concluding my salutations and shout outs, as the kids like to call them. So we could, if you want to show me some love, toss this link out onto your social media, share it to your friends, put it out there, let people come and join in. And we can watch all of this together. And even if you're watching it later, if you're watching this on demand, you can link this out, tweet this out, show some love, subscribe, all that good jazz. So glad everyone's here. We're going to have a nice time. By the way, I want to give a shout out to the boys over at Smark to Death, over this way, who sent me a couple of t-shirts, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys. If you're not aware, Smart to Death, fantastic pro wrestling podcast that covers a lot, well, mostly WWE and New Japan. They will talk about the independent scene as well, but they do, primarily WWE, New Japan, fantastic. Kyle and Anthony do a great job. If you want to go check them out, it's super easy. They are everywhere. Like, literally. Their podcast is everywhere. Their social media presence is everywhere. I respect their hustle tremendously. And they're cool guys. So go check them out. Smart to Death. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, Podbean, Spotify. I don't know. Whatever else. Go check them out. Oh, wait, my chair's noisy. I don't know if you heard that. Get a pretty good creak. I'm going to make sure not to lean in too much, or else it's going to throw me off, just like it did right there. A few programming notes before we get into it. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Wednesday is usually the moment that I end up over on FightfulSelect.com to do my 205 Live NXT recap show. That's always a good time. What is FightfulSelect.com? I'm glad you asked. FightfulSelect.com is the premium service of Fightful.com. Premier sports, combat sports news site. You get your pro wrestling, get your MMA, your boxing, all there. If you just want to focus on pro wrestling, you go to Fightful Wrestling, I should say, .com. You go there and you have all your pro wrestling news there. But if on top of all the news and scoops and exclusives that you get on Fightful, if you want more wrestling content, and god damn it, I know you do, because you're a pro wrestling fan, damn it, you want all the wrestling content you can handle and beyond. You want to have it's like when you go to an all-you-can-eat buffet and you say, man, I can have everything to eat here. I'm going to put it all on my plate. But you know you're not going to be able to eat it all. You just want to have everything on your plate. Well, if that's how you feel about content, wrestling content, FightfulSelect.com is for you. It's the premium service. You get a whole bunch of extra wrestling content. You get a whole bunch of extra members only podcast. Sean Ross Sapp, managing editor over there, does a weekly podcast called The Weekender, where he covers all non-WWE programming, Lucha Underground, Impact, Ring of Honor, NWA, New Japan. He goes over it all. Injury reports, news tidbits. He does that every week. He does Q&A sessions. He does dark match commentaries. There's my 205 Live NXT recap show as well. We do, Sean and I, we do retro pay-per-view reviews. We've got a couple stacked up. We just recently released Survivor Series 1994. Was it a good show? Was it a bad show? Well, I thought it wasn't a very good show, but the recap is excellent. So you can go check that out. There's so much stuff. There is so much stuff. And the subscriptions start at just $5 a month. You can go there, subscribe, and you get more Warren Hayes. So tomorrow I'm back to doing, because I had to move the 205 Live NXT podcast last week. I did it on Thursday. Now I'm back to my usual time slot on Wednesdays. I'm going to do it at 9 o'clock, 205 Live NXT. And then I've also added NXT UK to the recap show. But WWE are airing back-to-back episodes of NXT UK, 2 hours of NXT UK. So I'm going to be doing an extra show on Fightful Select the next night on Thursday. I'm going to do an hour exclusively covering those 2 hours of NXT UK. I'm excited about that. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here. That's fantastic. Then next week is probably going to be one of the busiest weeks I have ever been in since starting online internet podcasting things. I am going to be doing my usual recaps. Then it's a pay-per-view week, and it's a major pay-per-view week. So that means that there's an NXT pay-per-view as well. So I'm going to be doing an NXT preview show, prediction show, not just preview, predictions. I need a pop filter. Apologies for that. I'm sorry. So I'm going to be doing a War Games prediction show with my pal C. Danny Mac from the Undisputed Future podcast, who's going to join me once again to do that. And then I'm also going to be on the Speeds in the Benchmark show on Thursday, next Thursday, live. They start at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. So I'm going to be a guest there, where we're going to be talking about shelling out our predictions for NXT War Games there. And then Chris Spizak, one of the co-hosts of the Speeds in the Benchmark show, is going to be on my show to do a Survivor Series prediction show. Oh, just thinking about everything I have to do next week. I'm already in the sweats. I'm already sweating. Whew. It's going to be a busy week for your boy Warren. So and I also have something up my sleeve, and I can't tell you about it yet, but it's also going to be premiering next week. I'm really excited to lay it on you guys. Got some cool stuff coming up. So I'm busy. But I hope you guys tune in for all of that, because all of this is going to be done live. It's going to be done live on my YouTube channel here, youtube.com/Warren Hayes. So Mr. Warren Hayes, as if I don't know my own branding. So subscribe, right? Go right in and hit the subscribe button. Make sure that you don't miss a thing. Then I'll be then the War Games predictions over with the Speeds in the Benchmark. It's going to be over on their YouTube channel. So be sure that you subscribe to those guys. It's Speeds and the Benchmark. Go check those guys out. And I'm going to need a nap. Then on Saturday afternoon, I'm going to sleep. Hey, Rachel Moon. Good to see you. She says, I see you chose the black shirt. Yes, because I was discussing this on YouTube. I got the Smart to Death guys sent me their black t-shirt and also their classic heather gray with their classic logo on it. And I decided to put the black on. So there you go. Voila. And by the way, I know the guys, the Kyle and Anthony from Smart to Death, I know they're from Texas, but I mean, The t-shirt smells like steak spice. It really does. It's really strange. Anyway. Okay, and one more thing just before we really get into SmackDown. I usually don't cross the streams. Usually don't talk about stuff like New Japan Pro Wrestling on a WWE show like this. But I do watch New Japan. I don't have much time to cover it, but I do watch it, and I really, really like it. It's a fun time, different product than WWE. Anyway, I'm not gonna. But I am going to talk about it a bit because there is a WWE connection here. There is a WWE connection because apparently there is a report coming out that Tetsuya Naito, leader of Los Ingobernables de Japón, turned down an offer from WWE. Apparently, Naito told Tokyo Sports, the publication website, said that he got an offer from WWE after his match with Chris Jericho at Dominion earlier this year, and he declined immediately. There's a quote here. He says, "I didn't even give it thought. This New Japan ring is already the world's number one stage. The fans know this. That's why I think we should focus on our home crowd before looking international," which is fantastic. You should understand, Naito says this as well, you should understand that I have no interest in WWE superstar Chris Jericho's ring. What I want to do is get revenge for what happened in a New Japan ring. So I think it's interesting that Naito just got an offer, turned it down. It's like, thanks, but no thanks. Probably dodged a bullet. Not sure what they do with him. I mean, he's he's extremely charismatic and huge in New Japan. And I think there's nothing that WWE could have brought him really on top of that. Shout out to Becky and Joe, who just joined the chat. Having a nice crew out here tonight, and you guys are arriving just in time for bold predictions. Every day that there's a WWE main roster program, I go onto Twitter. Well, I do it pretty much every day. I go on Twitter every day, but I especially go on Twitter for the specific reason of asking my timeline for their boldest predictions in regards to stuff that might happen on WWE's quality, top-notch programming. So, we got a couple of them tonight. I will admit to those of you who follow me on Twitter and are watching, and a bit of a low response tonight. Was it due to the fact that the show was pre-taped and a lot of people had read the spoilers? I didn't read the predictions. Not the predictions, the spoilers. I stay away from Twitter then. It's not even like, oh, I'll mute some words. No, I just stay away because I like to come into my shows springtime daisy fresh. So I don't know if it's because most of the results were spoiled online. Who knows? But we did get a couple of quality ones. Let's take a look at what we have here. Starting off with JPQ. Fan of the show, friend of the show, colleague, comrade, chum of the show. Samoa Joe has a Freudian slip by saying, "Oh, Denny's." Yeah. I've been to a Denny's once in my lifetime, in my 21 years on this planet Earth. And it was quite probably the worst breakfast I ever had. So thank you, JPQ. That was a bold prediction. JV Ensley chimes in, says Dean Ambrose joins SmackDown as the new bully on the block. has a bit of a kissy face, and I'm not quite sure what that means. I don't if this is a reference to some 90s boys band, but still, Dean joining SmackDown, that's pretty bold. Would probably mean that Seth ran him off, and I don't think we're there yet. Jason Broadwell says, your SD Live, your SmackDown Live Survivor Series captain, Heidenreich. That, That's not only bold, it'd be funny for like, imagine if this happened. It'd be funny for like 2 minutes. 3 at tops. And then everyone would be like, no, that'd be horrible. And finally, well, there you go. Do It With Flareon, also known as Becky, who is currently in the chat. I see you there. Orton wheels out cannons that shoot out cola into the crowd, whilst R-Truth, Carmella, Naomi, Lana, and Asuka all have a dance break, and America the Brave is playing nonstop. That is bold. And also, Becky, wow, get some sleep. No, this is fantastic. Thank you so very much. And those are our bold predictions for today's edition of SmackDown Live, the 6th of November edition. Let's just check it out here. Jason Campbell says, I miss Denny's. There used to be one here for years. Maybe it was just my Denny's experience that wasn't very good. Maybe I just came across a poor Denny's, one that didn't quite live up to standards, which is possible. But man, oh man, I still feel to this very day, I feel the eggs running down my throat. Like, Rachel says she'd love for Dean to join SmackDown. Does Heidenreich even wrestle anymore? You know what? We're going to find that out. But I don't think so. Heidenreich. I'm going to go take a quick check at his couple of entries here. But I don't think he does. He wrestled independently, I think, towards the end of the 2000s. Yeah, that's it. Wait a minute. Now, hang on. Wait a minute. Heidenreich debuted at the Battle on the Border in Ohio on February 24th, 2018. He placed 4th in the Golden Ticket Battle Royal. Are you kidding me? That would make him, he's 46. My God. Good for him. If he can still make a few bucks out of wrestling, good for him. All right. Let's talk about SmackDown Live if you want, folks. I did my stretches. Man, I smell like steak spice. It smells like Texas. All right. We start the evening with Paige. Paige invites, she's in the ring. She invites Shane to the ring. She calls him the best in the world, of course, because that's what Shane is right now, isn't he? Because he won that thing at that pay-per-view. You know the one I'm talking about. And he comes in and he, not quite a warm reception, wouldn't you say, from the Manchester crowd? Quite, I think people aren't quite buying into it. He takes a picture with the trophy. Have you seen how light that trophy looked? When he was picking it up, and even Paige when she was holding it. I'm not saying Paige is a weakling. I'm a weakling. Paige could probably kick my ass without in a blink like that. She could drop me just like that. But for a trophy that size, it seemed very manageable and light. It was really weird. I don't think it's actually made out of gold or even metal for that matter. Anyway, he takes the picture with the trophy, and now he sort of justifies what he did. He says basically he was acting on instinct, when Miz got injured, because he felt it was the only way for him to ensure that SmackDown be the superior brand. And they sort of leave it at that. And that's the explanation that we get. And then he sort of downplays, he says to himself, oh, well, yeah, he says to us, well, I don't consider myself. You say I'm the best in the world, but I don't think I'm the best in the world. So really, you kind of wonder if WWE is not, just realizing the level of backlash that this is getting, and they just decided to, okay, well, we're just going to toss this to the side here and never speak of it again. Anyway, he's basically out there to announce the men's Survivor Series team captain, and he invites, so he says, here's our captain, and it's Daniel Bryan. His music hits, and he comes to the ring, and he starts his promo saying, he basically tells Shane, I'm glad that you don't think of yourself as the best in the world, Shane. And I like it because it's a very Daniel Bryan thing to say, sort of like, okay, good. I'm glad that you're not playing wrestler like the rest of us who actually do this for a living, Shane. Thank you very much. So I thought that was interesting. And but Daniel Bryan's promo was interrupted by The Miz, who comes out. And so basically, he's disagreeing with everything. He disagrees with the choice of Daniel Bryan. He says, he disagrees. Maybe Shane isn't entirely the best in the world, but he's at least 1/3 because The Miz went through 2 other matches to get to the final. So he's 2/3 best in the world, which would come up later in the evening. Miz would use that a couple of times. He'd use it in referring to himself. I'm 2/3 of the best in the world. And I think that's so good. It's so ridiculous and funny and perfect Miz. And I really, really hopes he keeps that because it's really stupid and funny. And if there's one good thing, if we can look back and say, well, there's at least this one good thing that came out of this crown jewel thing, it's Miz referring to himself as 2/3 is the best of the 2/3 of the best in the world. I think that's hilarious. Anyway, so Miz basically says that he should be captain. Shane agrees after discussing about it with Paige. And he makes both Miz and Daniel Bryan co-captains. Now this, folks, doesn't make any sense to me. It makes absolutely no sense. Let's talk kayfabe here for a second. If on one hand, and I posted this on Twitter as well, if Shane McMahon is so hell-bent on having his brand be the superior brand, wouldn't he create winning conditions for his team, right? How is it smart for him to put as co-captains 2 guys who inherently detest each other? That creates a power vacuum at the top. And then people sort of like, well, people say to themselves, the people on the team will be like, well, look, these guys are always arguing. We have no direction. We have no plan. They're tearing at each other. And it's not good for team composition, for your team morale to not have any direction. If you don't have one person who's maintaining focus, how is your team going to succeed? And I'm talking purely kayfabe here because I understand wrestling is predetermined. I get that. But holy smokes. That's so weird. I don't understand this logic that he had here to want to be able to win and put these 2 guys as co-captains. It doesn't jive. And even the explanation that he gives backstage where he says, well, you guys, I want you guys out of your comfort zone. You challenge each other, and but at the same time, through this relationship that you have, you bring the best out of each other. Iron. What's the expression? Iron sharpens iron. I will reserve final judgment, my final thoughts on this at the very end of the show. Okay, but let's just leave it at that for now. Keep in mind that the idea here is that, basically iron sharpens iron. All right? Cool? Hey, what up, Graham? 4 a.m. It's probably in the UK. Graham is joining us in the chat. 4 a.m. You're a trooper, and I salute you. Next we have bless our hearts, the New Day versus the Usos. What a treat we had tonight. Jay starts off. He comes in strong, but Kofi does his a bit of a comedy spot where he basically sort of flips over the top rope, and he's sort of dangling there while Xavier Woods plays the trombone, distracting Jey Uso. And while Jey Uso is distracted, a big semi-truck just runs him over with a clothesline. I liked it. I thought it just fit in the overall concept of what the New Day is, but cross my fingers, cross my heart, cross my eyes. I hope it doesn't become a thing, because it will become annoying really, really fast. Just pull it out once in a while. Back from commercial, Jay is in control after giving Kofi a big kick to the knee. Then Jimmy and Big E both get hot tags. Big E with suplexes and belly to bellies. Jimmy takes him down with a European uppercut, though. Big E with a Uranagi in the corner. There's a couple of people in the world that I wouldn't want to take a Uranagi from. Samoa Joe, Big E. Holy smokes. That looks harsh. So he goes for the cover after the Uranagi, only gets 2. Jay dives off the top rope, and Big E lifts his knees. Big E hits the big ending, but Jimmy saves the pin just in time. That was really, really close. Big E misses his YOLO dive, where he dives onto the outside, but picks up Jay nonetheless and drives him into the barricade in a powerful, powerful spot. Does the same to Jimmy, who escapes, then pushes Big E into the timekeeper area. And at that point, Kofi does a cordon bleu level of trust dive from the top rope to the outside. That was fantastic. Kofi gets the SOS on Jay. Covers only gets 2, though. He does a top rope crossbody. Only gets 2 again after going for a cover. The fake out double suplex that the Usos were doing on Kofi while they were on the apron, and they were trying to suplex him. They were teasing him to suplex him to the outside. Really scared me, because at some point, when they do that spot, sometimes they'll just lift the guy a little bit off the ground. Lift him again off the ground, and then they'll move into what they really want to do. But here they lifted him, and you could see Kofi's weight shifting back a little and shifting forward again. I was terrified they were going to go through it. I was like, don't do this on SmackDown. It's not that I don't want you to do it. Just don't do it on SmackDown. Keep that for a pay-per-view, you kooks. Yes, kooks, by the way, that's a commonplace word that I use in my everyday vocabulary. When I take the bus in the morning, bus driver greets me and says hello, and I says, "Morning, you kook." Anyway, so the fake out double suplex was crazy. The Biggie finally hits his YOLO dive on Jay, and it's crazy. And And he almost drives Jay's head into the commentary table. I think Jay had some really good spatial awareness because I feel like he moved his head away just as he felt he was coming close to the commentary table. That was nuts. Kofi hits Trouble in Paradise perfectly. It was a beautifully executed Trouble in Paradise. He covers Jimmy, only gets 2. We get some top rope shenanigans between Jimmy and Kofi again, where Kofi goes for, I guess, a Hurricane Rana, but it's blocked by Jimmy on the second rope. And then Jimmy does a diving power bomb off the corner onto the mat and then finishes with a gorgeous Uso splash. And your boys, the Usos, are the captains of the SmackDown Live tag team. What a fantastic match. Now, we know because we've seen it before. We've seen New Day and the Usos put on classic fights. This I would rank right up there with their best matches that they've had throughout 2017. This was awesome. Awesome stuff. It's crazy that we get this just on a Tuesday night, a gratis like that. And Usos do the respect thing. Basically said, there's no SmackDown tag division without the Usos and the New Day. Kind of hard to argue that point. And they pick the New Day to begin their to begin the open up the SmackDown Tag Team Survivor Series team. There you go. There we go. So quickly in the chat over here, Graham says, even though we've seen the Usos and the New Day a big number of times, I still love these two together. It's just magic. These guys trust each other so goddamn much. They do anything. They could do anything to each other. King Hooney, I'll say Hooney. King Hooney says lots of cult followers in Manchester talking about Becky. We'll get to that in a little while. Miz is backstage on his phone talking about the late night TV bookings due to the release of the Marine 6. There's been 6 The Marine movies. There was that, and I honestly only remember that first one that John Cena did. There's been 5 others, and apparently a lot of them are star The Miz. I did not know. Well, I mean, I knew that, but I just don't remember anything of them. So he's talking to his agent about late night TV bookings, and it turns out that the late night programs all won. Becky, not Miz. Brian comes in and says, well, I have my first pick for the night, and it's going to be for the SmackDown team. It's going to be Rey Mysterio. Miz says he hasn't done anything since coming back to WWE, but Brian points out that he's been on a winning streak. And hey, by the way, Miz, he's beaten you as well. Miz says, basically, he says it here. How dare you talk like that to 2/3 of the best in the world? I swear, he has to keep this. He has to milk it. It's so perfectly ridiculous. It's so good. And it's the kind of thing, as the type of heel that Miz is, works perfectly. And no one can really go back and challenge him on it. Because he's not entirely wrong, but it's not really a prestige thing either. It's not. Who would you hang your hat on that? No, of course not. But Miz would. They decide. So they each have their own pick done. Oh, because they picked Shane McMahon. I forgot to mention that. Miz picked Shane McMahon. That was his first pick. Shane didn't want to at first, but Daniel Bryan sort of agreed with him. So they each had a pick, and to decide the third final pick, they said, well, we'll each pick a guy, we'll have him fight, and the winner will be on our team. So they kind of agreed. They look at each other, and it's kind of awkward because they find it strange that they're agreeing on stuff. They recap Ronda's promo from the night before because it's time for a Becky Lynch promo. Now, I said this on my Raw recap last night, which you can go check. It's available on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. I said last night about Ronda's promo, and I'm still sticking by this. It's my boy Sean Ross Sapper on Fightful.com who pointed this out on Twitter, saying that it's kind of nonsense for Ronda to come out with her promo and say, Becky, while you were doing this, I was, my mother was, while you were going to school, my mother was waking me up, trying to break my arm. While you were at clown school, I was training to become an Olympic gold medalist, silver medalist, or whatever, compete at the Olympics. While you were an air stewardess serving snacks, I was on the biggest MMA championship tear in the history of MMA. And all true things. But you got to be careful here, Ronda, because while you took a loss and went away to cry and lick your wounds and pout and disappear from the public eye, Becky Lynch was working her ass off to get to where she is today. So it's kind of iffy ground. Anyway, so Becky comes to the ring, and this is what King Hooney was talking about, that there were lots of cult followers in Manchester. Remember, it was at Evolution when Michael Cole said that, trying to explain the reaction that Becky was getting in the ring from the audience, basically saying, Becky Lynch has a cult following. Like, bullshit. That's bullshit. I know Vince feeds him the lines, but god damn it, stop having Michael Cole say stupid shit, because that is just stupid shit. So did you hear the cult following in Manchester tonight? Yeah, that was a lot of heel heat going on there. The heel champ. There you go. Anyway, Becky cuts a fantastic promo. It says, "Who the hell are you to tell the champ anything? It's true that you hold a championship, but you are not a champion. A champion wills herself through adversity and doubt, and you haven't been tested yet. I've been tested daily, weekly, monthly, and yet here I am, the most relentless person you ever met. Last night, you mocked the road I traveled to pay for everything I have today. I wasn't handpicked to be in the spot where I am today, but here I am." And I like that. I wasn't meant to be the talk of the industry, but here I am. So I like that. There was a good flow to her promo. Was really, really well constructed. And it ends by her saying, "I don't care if you're the biggest bitch on the planet," referring to how Ronda referred to herself last night. "I don't care if you're the biggest bitch on the planet, because I'm going to make you mine." She goes to leave the ring, but she's all fired up. She says, I want to fight. Come on, bring me anyone, bring me anything. And then Sanity's music hits. The Sanity boys come out. They point to the back, and amidst the darkness and the smoke, out pops Nikki Cross. Ya girl. Nikki Cross. And I had me a serious case of the shivers, because I love Nikki Cross. And what a great reaction she got as well. And that leads us into, Becky starts talking crap to her, right? Nikki Cross pulls the mic out of her hands and says, starts telling Betty, saying to Becky, "I want to play. I'll play with you, Becky. I'll play with you. Becky says, "I'm the champ. The champ doesn't play. The champ fights." So we get Becky Lynch versus Nikki Cross. Becky takes Nikki down and keeps shoving her down until eventually Nikki basically keeps asking for more, because that's who she is. She's nuts. Becky does a hurricane. No, not Becky. Yeah, Becky does a hurricane Rana and tosses Nikki over to the outside. Nikki catches Becky in the ring skirt and then starts wailing on her. Lynch then leg sweeps Nikki on the apron, who falls hard on her back on it. Then she starts beating her up on the outside, rolls her back into the ring, covers, but only gets 2. Becky does a spinning heel kick on Nikki Cross. Again, tries for a cover, only gets 2. Hits the Bexploder, a diving forearm cover. But again, Nikki Cross kicks out at 2. Nikki battles back with some forearms, running lariats, avalanche, and bulldog. That's some very signature Cross offense. She goes for a top rope crossbody, covers Lynch, only gets 2. She stomps on her in the corner, but Becky gets out of there and snaps on the disarmer for the win. I want to talk about this a little bit, if you're okay with that. Well, not much you can say, because it's my show. I get to talk about what I want. I consider myself to be a big NXT guy. I really love my NXT. I have a particular amount of affection for Nikki Cross. So when she came out, I had a very interesting mixture of excitement, joy, anxiety, and worry, because of, basically how, first and foremost, how most NXT stars, when they get called up, how they're treated, first and foremost. But then also, how they treat the women right now, or at least how they've been treating them up until Evolution. I found, I'm a bit worried as to how they handle their women. But as it stands, since Evolution, or at least since last night on Raw, and then even tonight, I find that they're doing better with the ladies. But you can go watch my Raw recap, and it's not just a cheap plug for you to watch it. My thoughts on how they're handling the women since Evolution has, I feel like it's improved. So you can go check that out if you want to hear me talk about it some more. Talk about other stuff as well. But the fact that they brought Nikki Cross in so soon, not so soon, but so like right now, is interesting timing, especially to go put her up straight up against Lynch. Now, I would have been excited, real legit excited, if Becky didn't have her match against Ronda in about 12 days time. Because right now, this is not the time for Becky to look weak in any way. She has to look her strongest. Same thing with Ronda. They're not going to let their champs go by the wayside. So technically, if they wanted to bring Nikki Cross up into NXT, and into SmackDown, up onto main roster, bring her in and have her have a match against the champ, well, she has to look strong. She has to look really, really strong. Doesn't have to end with Becky sniveling off, grabbing her belt and sniveling off to a 10 count. It doesn't have to end that way. But I also think that she might have looked stronger. Nikki would have looked stronger than she did tonight had it been in another type of circumstances. A little bit a la Andrade Cien Almas when he had his match against AJ Styles. That was a fantastic, stellar fight that they had. Andrade lost, but boy, oh boy, did it cement him. Here, we had Nikki, she's a special talent. She has a connection, she has a charisma, a presence about herself that's so hard to get. She's entirely committed to the crazy gimmick, and she does it well because it's easy to just go extremely over the top or be without any true direction. She understands who she is as far as her character goes, and she's able to transmit it really, really well. I don't feel this was the optimal way to introduce Nikki Cross to an audience who may not be entirely familiar with her. But then again, is this really Nikki Cross's NXT debut? Usually when they have NXT call-ups arrive, they don't talk about NXT. Like when Sanity came up, it was leaked that commentary had specific notes not to talk about NXT when speaking of Sanity. I don't even think they mentioned that Andrade Cien Almas was NXT champion, or if they did, it was very much in passing, but they didn't build his appearance around that. But here, Becky acknowledged it in the ring, says, "Oh, NXT's twisted sister, what are you doing here?" kind of thing. So maybe it's just a one-off. Maybe it's just because that they were, in Great Britain, and they have to get all their British wrestlers. She's from Scotland, right? So Nikki Cross is. So maybe they just feel they have to get all their British wrestlers on the same show. I don't know, but it felt interesting. It felt good to see her with the Sanity boys, because Sanity is not complete without Nikki. It's a package. Nikki was the glue of that team, of that stable. So it tugged at my heartstrings to see them all together, and just to see Sanity on TV. Just saying that. But I'm not sure that this is Nikki Cross's official call-up. I'm not sure what their plan is for Nikki. She's super over with Full Sail over on NXT. They love her, and they had her have a fantastic role in the Aleister Black whodunit. It just cemented her more as a favorite. I think they really missed their moment to call her up when she was defeated by Shayna Baszler for the NXT Championship earlier this year. And Shayna Baszler had her in the Kurafina clutch, and Nikki Cross was passing out, and she had her arms extended, and she was smiling because this is was kind of what she wanted. It was such a beautiful image. It would have been a perfect swan song for her NXT career, but no, they just stretched it out. But anyway, I was still happy to see her. I got shivers. We'll just have to see what happens from this point on. But to me, it's the equivalent of when they had Pete Dunne appear on Raw. Was it last year? Was it at the Manchester show last year? Or I don't quite remember. Just as a one-off. It wasn't an official thing. And then they had Tyler Bate be on 205 Live. I feel it's just a one-off, but we'll see. You see, Graham asked that question in the chat. Do you think Nikki Cross's appearance was a one-off, as it was in the UK, or do you think it's a full-time callable? There you go. Hard to say, because they've done this before, but I think it was. Oh, you know what? She's from Scotland. Scotland is in Great Britain. Let's put her on the show. I think so. And it served to make Becky look strong as well. So, all good stuff. The Miz and Bryan then revealed their final choices for that match for the coveted final spot on the men's Survivor Series team. Samoa Joe and Jeff Hardy. And Samoa Joe was there to sort of stare Daniel Bryan down, who, of course, if we remember what happened last week, Daniel Bryan was in a coquina clutch. So Miz stirring the pot maybe a little bit here. Anyway. Rey Mysterio versus Andrade Cien Almas. Goodness gracious. SmackDown spoiled us tonight. Zelina's not here. They said that she was off doing managerial stuff, but in reality, she's injured. There's a couple of reports roaming around about her either having a concussion, about suffering a shoulder or an arm injury, because all linked to when she was tossed out, eliminated from the Battle Royal over at Evolution 2 Sundays ago. Tamina was supposed to catch her on the outside, but she didn't, and she landed really hard on the mat, on the floor, and her arm, I don't remember left or right, but one of her arms went numb as she hit the ground. So She's out with an injury. Hope she gets better soon. We love us some Zelina, and you know, it's crazy when you see Andrade, Cien, Almas. Without her, you realize just how much of a package the both of them are together. Early on, there's a lot of kicks from both guys. There's a great Hurricane Rana by Rey on Almas, but Almas gets back in control really quickly with a big back elbow that drives Rey down to the mat. There's a running knee to Mysterio's face in the corner. Goes for a cover, only gets 2. Rey then dodges a corner knee, and Almas flips over and heads to the floor. Then Rey leaps off the ropes to the outside for maybe a Hurricane Rana. Commentary called for a seated senton. Not quite sure about that, but Rey, regardless, is caught by Almas, who grabs him down like in a powerbomb position and just whips him into the barricade like he was just a sack of flour. A sack of spicy flour, but flour nonetheless. Back in the ring, Mysterio starts battling back, hits a seated springboard senton on ya boy Almas, does a tornado run on him that was beautiful, just beautiful. But Almas counters back with a big boot to the face. Rey returns the favor, covers, only gets 2. Almas crotches Mysterio on the top rope, and shenanigans on that top rope ensue. We get a sunset flip. Almas flips himself. Mysterio does a sunset flip, then Almas flips himself, knees Mysterio in the corner, then runs to the other corner, runs back and meteoras him. Whoo boy. Covers Mysterio, but Mysterio won't stay down. That was a great little sequence right there. Tilt-a-whirl backbreaker by Almas, who goes up top. And then he does his moonsault into a standing moonsault. God, I think I've talked about this before. Yes, I have talked about this before. Oh my God. Yes, because we haven't seen Almas on TV for a while, but I said at that point that I will never get tired. I don't know how many times it'll take for me to get tired of seeing Almas do his moonsault into a standing moonsault, because that shit is awesome. And I had started a counter on the Warren board. I had started counting at that episode. So there was, just to see how many times it would take me to get tired. So this would be the second time since I've started count. 2 times, and I'm still not tired of seeing it. That was so good. I love it. But he does his standing moonsault, and Rey lifts his knees. Almas then gives Rey an elbow in the gut, going for the 619. He has Rey up in an electric chair. They tumble over the top rope, but Almas lands on his feet, and he still has Rey on his shoulders. And Mysterio face slams Almas right onto the apron. He runs back in the ring and does his sliding. He does like a baseball slide under the second rope into a DDT. That was fantastic. Hits the 619. Drop of the dime. And that's a win for Rey Mysterio Jr., which was fantastic. And that basically convinces Miz to add Rey Mysterio to the team, to the Survivor Series team. That was a fantastic match again tonight, folks. And you kind of wanted it to go a little longer, don't you think? Give us a little more. Man, give these guys 15 minutes soon. I would pay copious amounts of money or any type of other trading device or apparatus that is required to get this match to happen, because wow, this was a lot of fun. But then after the match, out of nowhere, RKO Randy Orton just drops Rey, continuing his ongoing quest to take down all of these superstars that we've loved so much. We've loved so much that we've left Randy behind. Remember that? His motivation for taking out Jeff Hardy? It continues here. I like that. Randy Orton versus Rey Mysterio Jr. Clash of Style. It's not Jr. anymore. I still have a tendency to call him Rey Mysterio Jr. Clash of Styles. But still an interesting, very interesting team up. I want to shout out to Everything Pro Wrestling who jumped into the chat and says, "What's up, Warren? A very good episode of SmackDown Live. That's what's up." We see AJ backstage cutting a promo. Notes that his title reign started right here in Manchester a year ago. And technically, right now, like I'm taping this on the 6th of November. So in 2 days, if I'm not mistaken, November 8th will mark exactly 1 year, I think. Like day from a full 365 days since AJ Styles won the title from Jinder Mahal. It's kind of odd to think about that now, but yeah, we're a year removed from that. And basically he starts talking about his match against Brock that happened last year. He threw everything at him, but this year he will beat Brock, and that's not a prediction. It's a spoiler. Nice little winky dink to old Paul E. Dangerously. The thing here is that this is the first thing that I said when I found out that Brock had won back the Universal title at Crown Jewel, because I didn't watch it. Still haven't and won't. The first thing that popped into my mind is that, okay, this is the match we're getting at Survivor Series. We're getting AJ Styles versus Brock Lesnar 2. And I am 100% okay with that, because their match that they had at Survivor Series last year was one of the highlights of Brock's reign of terror. If not the highlight, it was a great, great match. Perfectly well-told story. Great action. It was super well done. Brock was motivated. AJ was fantastic. They really delivered a fantastic match. Paige is back in the ring, and she presents to us the Survivor Series women's team, starting with Carmella. Carmella comes to the ring. Commentary says they say she's a former Ms. Money in the Bank, but they don't mention that she's a former SmackDown Women's Champion, and that kind of sucks. Because they say that Naomi's a former champion, which is true, but I mean, we're not that far removed from Carmella's title reign. Just a couple of months. So Naomi, Sonya Deville, Asuka, and Charlotte are going to be the women's title. I am super stoked that Sonya Deville is getting a position here, because she's fantastic. And she's been doing nothing but growing. I still think she was taken out of NXT a little too quickly. But man, I am so glad they're putting her in this spot here. And as Paige calls for Charlotte doesn't come out. Instead, Mandy Rose comes out instead. And she has a mic, and basically she says, "Oh, yes, it's me, Mandy Rose, not the blonde you were expecting." And basically she challenges Paige. She says, "Why did you pick Sonya and not me? After all, I did eliminate her over at Evolution." So I think that's interesting, because then they're continuing that little spark of a feud that they had over at the pay-per-view. That was sort of dismissed at the time as like, well, even sisters fight, sure. But now there's maybe there's something a little deeper here, and I am completely okay with giving the spotlight to these ladies. Give us something a little fresh. Give them a little push, a little some screen time, so that they can grow and blossom as well. Because we haven't seen much of them outside being support talent for Paige and being jobbed out all the time. I think this is good. This is new stuff, fresh stuff coming from WWE Creative. You cannot be against that. Mandy starts talking smack on everyone. Carmella, your title reign was like your dance breaks. It was short and meaningless. Then she goes after Naomi. Rose makes a joke about her husband because, of course, the ladies, they're connected to their husbands. As opposed, anyway, I'm a little short on time, so I won't get on another rant about how I feel, how WWE handles those things. But Naomi basically goes after Mandy Rose. And the ladies try to split them, try to keep them apart from each other. And DeVille grabs Mandy to pull her off. And Mandy sort of fights off. And she's like, what are you doing? Why aren't you, basically, why aren't you having my back? And Sonya's like, look, dude, none of this. And there's a standoff. It's very tense. Mandy Rose walks off. Where was Charlotte? Main event, Jeff Hardy versus Samoan Joseph with Daniel Bryan and Miz on commentary. I just want to point out really quickly, even though, as I said at the start, I think the motivation for having co-captains, especially rivals as co-captains, I think the motivation is stupid and doesn't make sense. I did enjoy every segment Daniel Bryan and Miz did together. It really called back to that chemistry they had on Talking Smack. And I also feel that everything that they did throughout throughout this evening was so much better than the build-up they had to their matches, their SummerSlam match and so on and so forth, the matches afterwards, the Hell in the Cell, and everything they did was really, really magic tonight. And it made me pine for Talking Smack. Anyway, Joe goes in really hard to begin with, but Hardy goes for a whisper in the wind right off the bat, which connects. Important to note, when it connects, it looks good. He covers Joe, but it only gets 2. Double axe handled by Jeff to Joe, who's on the floor on the outside. Joe destroys Jeff with a running elbow. That was some sick shit. Back from commercial, Joe is still in control. He elbows Jeff into the corner and hits a jumping enziguri. They brawl onto the outside. Jeff dives off the barricade. Right on to Samoa Joe. Jeff hits some of his signature offense. The basement dropkick, double leg drop covers, only gets 2. Twist of fate by Jeff Hardy, who goes up top. He goes for a swanton, but Joe lifts his knees. Jeff Hardy, 40-some years old, still doing friggin' swantons. That in and about itself is enough punishment for the dude's body. But no, he lands on Samoa Joe's knees. Hot diggity damn. Joe gets Hardy into the Coquina clutch and he taps a clean. So the final member of the SmackDown Live Survivor Series male team, is Samoa Joe, who goes out to taunt Bryan. I loved how Bryan was just sitting there and everyone was telling him, keep your cool. And Joe's just standing in front of him, staring down at him. Bryan's sitting down. No, he just moves in closer. And he sticks his belly right in his face. He's so despicable. The taunt was perfect. And of course Daniel Bryan is going to start swinging at him. Of course. They go back into the ring and then there's a yes lock that's applied. Miz comes in and pulls Daniel Bryan off. He's like, what the hell are you doing? This is not how we conduct our team. Daniel Bryan starts wailing on Miz. Then Shane runs in to sort of break that up. He gets an arm drag and he no-sells it. Oh my God, did you guys see that? How much of a no-sell he did? He flipped And he landed and he sat sort of back up and he's like, what the hell, Daniel? And I'm like, what the hell, Shane? I get it. You're the best in the world. But god damn it. Sell the fucking move. You just got flipped over by Daniel Bryan. What the hell, man? Now, remember what I was saying at first? I was saying, you know, how I thought it didn't make sense. And then people were saying, you know, oh, but iron sharpens iron. That's why they put Miz and Daniel Bryan up against each other, because they complement each other so well, you know, kind of thing. There's no iron sharpening iron here. Look, this is exactly what I thought at first, still in kayfabe. You don't put these guys together because it's just going to be a mess. Look at what Daniel Bryan is doing. Going off and beating up his teammates, beating up Miz. Come on. And then flipping Shane over. So now there's going to be, there's a power vacuum already, and we're just at the end of the first evening. Stupid decision, Shane. Stupid. And here's another thing. Another stupid decision was Miz and Daniel Bryan saying, yeah, sure, Shane, why don't you join us on our Survivor Series team? Forgetting the fact that last year Shane McMahon couldn't get the job done in the Survivor Series match. No, he got suckered by Triple H last year. You remember that? I sure do. It was bad decisions all around. SmackDown deserves to lose. There you go. That's the show. I thought this was a really, really fun, an exceptional evening of SmackDown. This is one of the reasons why SmackDown is... This is a prime example of why SmackDown is often considered to be the A show. Everything was great. We had some new matches, potential for new matches that were created. Storyline advancement, not running on place storyline advancement. Stuff happening to bring things forward. An excellent Becky Lynch promo. A classic New Day Usos match. A fantastic match. Nikki Cross. We had a surprise. We had an appearance by an NXT superstar. We had a fantastic match between Almas and Mysterio that made us wanting more. And a fun main event that established a persistent storyline, not only for Survivor Series, but even beyond that, because you can tell that they're going to bring Joe and Daniel Bryan past Survivor Series. What a fun show this was. When WWE does things well, it's great. But when they don't, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. I had a great time recapping, chatting with you guys over in the chat. Everyone who joined us live, thank you very much. And thank you for watching whenever you see this pop up. You know, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. You can find me also on Twitter at Mr. Warren Hayes. You can find me on Instagram at Mr. Warren Hayes. I started one of those because apparently that's what you're supposed to do. But go follow me everywhere. Follow me everywhere. Follow me to the store. And then I'll turn around and I'll see you. And maybe I'll give you a banana. I buy a lot of bananas when I go to the store. Well, like the food store, grocery store. If I go to the shoe store, I won't be buying bananas. And no, if you follow me to the shoe store, I'm not going to buy you a pair of shoes. Well, guys, thank you so very much for tuning in today. Hope you have a great evening, and I'll see you next time.